A very good evening, audience. Welcome back. I'm assuming all of you are here today. And for the people who are joining for the first time today about this initiative, a quick recap. So what we have done is we've come up with a role play of how an interview must be answered, and also giving you the taste of how often the wrong ways of answering a question in the interview is provided. So we have two greats from 360-digit MG. One is Sharath and the other is Barney. Sharath has consented to play the role of one Mr. Superior. All right, Mr. Superior, who is from an inferior training institute. All right. So this is, again, like I said, audience, a role play. Sharath, of course, many of you know his capabilities, and he's taking up the job for your benefit. And Mr. Barney is, on the contrary, playing the role of one who considers himself as an inferior person, but of course from a superior training institute, which is, of course, no prizes for guessing, 360-digit MG. We don't want to name our the inferior training institutes. It is just about everybody else. All right. So let's begin. So yesterday we had, it was the first day. So we had had a couple of questions, just 2 to 3 questions, and it was a question and an answer. We hadn't gone into the stage of, follow-up questions. When a question is asked, on the basis of the answer, the interviewer asks further questions. So we'll be, going into this kind of scenario also. So I may be asking one question, taking the answer, then asking another question, taking the second answer, and then I'll probably move to Mr. Inferior as Barney, the right answer is given. So I'll be moving to that and then taking how the right way of approaching it. So let's begin, and we'll start. So this is, like I said, a continuation to yesterday. So people who have not watched yesterday's, have not attended yesterday's session, it is there. You can definitely watch it later on, and you will be able to, get the continuity. All right. So let me begin. So Mr. Superior, welcome. We'll continue with the interview. Yesterday, you've mentioned that you've worked on a machine learning prediction model. Now, can you explain the business problem and the scope of work as you've understood from the client or whatever studies you've done? Can you please explain a little on that?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Nitin. Thank you so much. As I explained, as part of my journey into data science, I got trained from an inferior training institute, and I got skilled into machine learning models. And as part of my project, I worked on a machine learning prediction model, and this was specifically done for automobile sales dealer, where we were trying to look at the performance or try to help the client to get better price for each vehicle, each car. Now, the business problem that the client was having is to identify the right price for each vehicle. And the scope of the work was to help them identify that price. And when we studied the data that was given to us, we understood that the price can be very easily correlated to the mileage of that particular vehicle. So using this correlation and from the data that we obtained, we defined our business problem, the objective, as trying to maximize the sales for the client. And for this purpose, we tried to build a prediction model where we will be able to predict the mileage of the car given the rest of the factors. So this was the business objective that we have taken from the discussion from the client.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question here, Mr. Superior. This is with reference to, you mentioned about my question. The previous question was explain the business problem and scope of work. Now, I was not very clear because I get a feeling that you've answered the same thing for both the business problem and scope of work. Would you like to tell us again specifically what was the business problem and the scope of work. Is it exactly the same? Can you please explain further?
The business problem, yes, sorry, I'll try to elaborate my answer. The business problem was to help the customers get better returns while they're selling their vehicles, second-hand cars, for example. And the solution for this business problem was to try and identify the right price. So as part of the scope of our work, we decided to predict the mileage of the vehicle for each vehicle, given the factors or given the characteristics of the car, so that it can directly help us to identify what could be the right price for that particular vehicle.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Superior, for your answer. I'd like to now move on to Mr. Inferior for his answer. But I think audience, you get the general, I mean, speaking out of character, I think audience, you get the general idea as to how the response of Mr. Superior has been totally jumbled up. In fact, the second opportunity given to explain the answer has only confused the interviewer even further. So let us now hear from Mr. Inferior. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Inferior and I got trained from Superior Institute. As I've told you, I was given an opportunity to work on 4 different projects. And one of the projects was pertaining to financial analytics. And the client said that a lot of people were taking the loan and running away. They were not repaying the loan on time, and they would be called as defaulters. If someone who takes the loan does not repay within 3 months or doesn't pay 3 months of installments, they would be categorized as defaulters. So from this, we were expected to minimize the fraud. That was a key objective that we were trying to address. And by doing that, if we do some predictions and if we keep rejecting the loans based on high probability of someone defaulting, then the business revenue will go down. Profits of the bank will shrink. So we had a constraint also, which was to maximize the profits at the same time. Given this was from the business standpoint. That is how we started off. And then we have also defined the success criteria. As part of success criteria, we understand that there has to be business success criteria because we are doing this project for a business, for a bank. So the business success criteria was to minimize the number of defaulters by 10%. And then we have also given machine learning success criteria because this is a data science project. And the machine learning success criteria was to achieve an accuracy which was greater than 85%, which would be greater than 85%. And then the client is giving us project to get some benefits, monetary benefits out of that. So we have also documented the economic success criteria. And as part of economic success criteria, we had to interact with the client. We had to interact with a customer to understand that how much money will they save if we reduce the defaulters by 10%? They told that it could be anywhere between $1.5 million to $2 million. So that's the range that we have taken as an economic success criteria. Given that we had to kick off the project, to kickstart the project, we wanted some concrete document. And then we forced the client to give us the project charter. And the client was super busy. So client told, hey, why don't we both together document the project charter? And that is exactly what we have done. We've sat down with the client. We have understood what is the project requirement. Are we doing this for personal loan or are we doing it for automobile loan? Are we doing for educational loan? For which loan category are we doing? Then we figured out that we were looking at construction equipment loan. So the scope of this project was confined to construction loan allotment department, and everything else was out of scope. So we had to clearly document that. And having documented that, we've also recorded the high-level risks that we might foresee on the project. For example, maybe the connectivity when we want to connect to the server of the client to get the data, maybe the connectivity might go down. Sometimes we might not get access to right data, or we might not get access to the data on time, rather, if I were to put it that way. And also, we have recorded the key stakeholder details. A lot of times, communication mismatch happens. So we wanted to know who are the key people from the customer, from the bank, who would interact with the data science team. And we've also recorded their details in the key stakeholder details. We have also given them the milestones. We told that the entire project would approximately take 2 months, within which the first 15 days would be to establish the connection between your server and our server, and to do all the testing pertaining to the infrastructure, installing all the required softwares, etc. Then the next 15 days would be spent only on data pre-processing, cleaning the data and all that. The next 15 days would be on model building, evaluating the model. And then the next 15 days would be to deploy. So we have given the high-level milestones in this manner. And we've also given them the budget. How much money are we going to charge the bank on a milestone basis? So at the end of each milestone, we have also defined the success criteria or the artifacts which have to be given to the customer. As soon as customer receives those artifacts, customer is expected to release the money. And this is how we have documented the project charter, and we have kicked off the project. And in the first discussion, we had a very lengthy discussion with the client, key stakeholders, and our data science department. And then we have proceeded further with the subsequent steps. Thank you so much.
All right. So the key takeaway in this entire explanation, my dear friends, is that there is no scope for the interviewer to ask a follow-up question. The first part of the answer was specific to the question. The question was specifically about the objective and the scope of work, which was answered. But knowing pretty well that that answer is open to other questions, Mr. Inferior has gone ahead and explained something more that possibly the interviewer would like to know, and some completely sealed it or closed the option so that we can move to the next. So this is an important takeaway. It is not just knowing the right answer, but also knowing a little more than what is required so that the interviewer is super impressed. So that is one great thing. And that is something that you must take away from this answer. Thank you, both of you. And let me continue here. So again, the question is Mr. Superior. All right. I'm loving this role play. My colleagues, I'm able to call them names here. Anyway, so getting back into character, Mr. Superior, could you elaborate on the data collection process and everything that is there associated with that?
Sure, Mr. Nitin. So as part of the discussion that we had with the client, and once we were identifying what exactly we had to do, we then looked out for the data, and the data that was basically shared was in a CSV format. And this data was collected by the customers themselves, and they were storing that in a CSV file and sharing it with us. And we use that CSV file to import that into Python, and then we went ahead about doing our job by processing that particular data and implementing various pre-processing steps, and then we built the models, and then we partitioned the data, built the accuracy models, compared the results from training and test, and then finally we decided what is the best result, and then shared that particular solution back to the client for them to use.
I have a follow-up question, Mr. Superior. How is your answer with reference to the solution and having given back to the client? your answer to this. How is it related to the data collection process? Because my question was about data collection, all right? And how is it that your response with reference to the accuracy of the model, etc.? How do you correlate these two? Can you please answer?
Okay, so the data that we received, as I mentioned, was in a CSV format. So it was pretty much clean data that we received. The customers were filling up the client that we have working for this, right? The project that we were working for was having a team which is recording all this data. So it was pretty clean, and we did not had to really look out for various external factors of the data that we had to use. So pretty much all the data was readily available for us, and we just took the data and built the model. So just to add the process that we followed, I was also explaining about the process of building the models and the accuracy of the models.
All right. So I think it is, again, I have such wonderful data scientists who are actors who have done a fantabulous job of, giving, I don't have to even explain, I'm sure, to the audience here, while stepping out of character, how they have beautifully fumbled up and, explained it. Trust me, another thing, audience, that interviewers are generally not very rude. So you will not have, I'm sure many of you were thinking that I would ask, please answer to the point. Rarely it happens that you will have an interview who's rude. The interviewer will rephrase the question again. The objective of the interviewer asking the question again was to understand whether or not the interviewee is able to understand the question. All right. So it is quite evident that Sharath has totally missed the mark. I'm sorry. My bad. I moved out of character. Mr. Superior has totally missed the mark here. So let us now hear from Mr. Inferior from a Superior Training Institute, 360 Digit MG. Please go ahead, give your answers.
Yes, thank you. So what we have done is we first try to understand the client environment with respect to the infrastructure. And we understood that the client was storing the data in Oracle database. And the customer was also very keen to safeguard the data security and data privacy. So what we have done is we have established an environment at our end, an infrastructure where we installed our own, SQL database. And then we have told to the customer that, hey, customer, these are the various variables that we might need to proceed further with the analysis. Out of probably 20 odd variables or features which we have requested from the customer has given us only 17 variables. So when we establish a connection from the customer's Oracle database to our database, we could actually get only 17 features or 17 variables. And this was called as secondary data. And we as data scientists were using VPN, virtual private network. We were supposed to connect only to this server at our end with no access to the client server, because that has data of complete, of all the customers and all the departments. So whatever data we needed from the construction equipment loan perspective was given to us. We have taken the data, we have placed it on our server, and then we started working on that. And in the due course, we figured out that out of 20, 17 were given by the customer. What about the remaining 3? Remaining 3 were related to getting the data from social media. So we wanted to get into Facebook account of the customers who have applied for the loan and get to understand whether they are always writing negative things on social media or were they writing positive things, because we believe that this variable of sentiment analysis that a customer is exhibiting would also be pivotal in determining whether someone is going to default on the loan or not. So we had to go create an account on Facebook developer app and then get the permission from Facebook. And then we were able to scrape the data. By doing this, we could combine the primary data with the secondary data which the customer has given. And then we have gone about with the further analysis of doing the data pre-processing and all that. And we have used Python as a programming language. So we established the connection from the SQL to Python, and we built the model. And once the model was built, the prediction results were written back to the database. And from that database, the results were displayed on the dashboard of the customer's construction equipment loan department. So they were able to see the predictions of each and every new customer. And we also have given them options, either to approve the loan or reject the loan or manually process the loan. And we have also told to the customer that we can automate this. And we have given that aspect also, wherein if the probability was greater than 50% that someone will default, reject the loan, automatically our program, which we have written, would do that. And if the probability is less than 50% that someone will default, then it would get approved automatically. So this is exactly what we have done. And yeah, so this is about the data collection and how we have collected, how we build the model, how we deploy. While you asked me to explain about the data collection, I had to explain this because the entire infrastructure and how the connections were established was, I think, pivotal for you to understand how we have gone about dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Inferior from 360-Digit MG, the Superior Training Institute of India. That's an amazing response. So as you can see, I'll just like to elaborate a little bit about what Mr. Inferior has spoken here. So in the entire speech or entire answer that was given, he has not digressed away from the concept of data. While he spoke about model building, it was in the context of putting it back into the database. While he spoke about the dashboard, it was in the context of extracting it from the database. While he spoke about securities and firewalls, etc., it was in the context of, again, the data. While he spoke about limited number of variables, that was again in the context of database. So everything that he touched upon, everything that he skirted around, the objective or the thing that was there for was with reference to the database. So we have time for one small question. So I'd like to ask this question, and I'd request both the interviewees to be very brief with your answer. Even I let you to be a little direct as well. So can you please speak about the data location and access? Of course, while part of it has already been answered, but specific for this question, I'd request Mr. Superior to please go first and answer about with reference to the project data location and access.
Mr. Nitin, the answer is pretty simple because the project that we were working on was for a small company, and they did not have the big infrastructure. So the entire data was readily available for us in a Excel and CSV formats. And that data was directly given to us, and we were working on the system and loading that into our system using pen drive, flash drives, and then we started working on the Python programming. So pretty straightforward. We used our local systems and then started working on the data for building the models.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, while this particular answer, I'm not going to, press the buzzer and say it is a wrong answer, because there can be an extreme scenario that you may very rarely have a client who actually gives you the data. I'd be very surprised if any client were to give you the data, but it is not something out of the ordinary. But if you have multiple use cases, please do not use a use case in your interview to talk about such rare scenarios where client is going to give you data. I'm not saying that Mr. Mr. Superior is telling something incorrect. Quite possible may have happened, but I'm sure you have done multiple projects where you will have better scenarios. So I'd like to now hear quickly from Mr. Inferior from Superior Training Institute the same question, the correct answer for it, please.
So thank you so much for asking this question. So customer had data which was for the last 10 years, and they had 5 million records. So they had 5 million customers who have applied for the loan. And when we asked them for the data, customer was very wary of giving the complete data. So customer asked, be specific. We cannot give you access to a complete database. So we have done our research to understand what kind of variables really make sense. And we have picked up all those important variable names, feature names, and we have given it to the customer. And customer has given us access to approximately 20% of the data, 20% of 5 million records. The reason being, even if they give us 5 million records, the analysis that we perform would not, significantly improve the accuracy of the models that we built, given that 10 years back, scenarios were very different. And today's scenarios are very different. So we just requested them to give us data for the last 3 years. And we have taken that data and we have placed it on our infrastructure. When I say our infrastructure, our servers. And our servers were placed on AWS, Amazon Web Services. And we established a secure connection with the client environment. The moment we told that, hey, your data would be there on AWS, our data scientists will not be able to download that onto their computers, local computers. Client was convinced. AWS takes care of the security aspects. So they were keen to give the data, but they once again told that we will establish the connection, we'll push the data to your database, and there's the story. We will disconnect. We'll remove the connection with our main database. And that is what has happened. And when we had to access the data, we had to connect to the AWS server using the credentials, username and password. And then we have taken that data from our SQL server. And then we started running the models on AWS. However, on AWS, we had our EC2 instance. EC2 instance is like a computer on cloud. And then we started working on that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for the short and crisp answer, Mr. Inferior. That was an amazing answer. So, audience, I think it is quite clear, but nevertheless, to make it even threadbare and make it very simple, the choice of the use case that Mr. Superior has taken was very poor. The choice of the use case that Mr. Inferior from the Superior Training Institute is definitely a notch above. It gives an opportunity it gives an opportunity for the interviewee to explain about what are the things that one needs to what are the things one needs to know about databases, just about the entire gamut. So the choice is very important. So when you have to be prepared amongst the various projects what you're going to pick when these kind of questions are asked. So on that note, that is all for today. Mr. Stepping out of character. Thank you, Mr. Inferior, and thank you, Mr. Superior. I would now request Bharani Kumar
thank you so much.
Sometime. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nitin. So friends, every day when we are going to have these kind of sessions, we are going to record all these questions and the answers on the mind map. And the mind map will be shared once in a week. Okay, every Friday. We thought every day we will share, but we again figured out that every day would be too much of a rigmarole for us. So once in every week on Friday, we will share with you all on our LinkedIn profile. What are we going to share? We will share the mind map, and we will also share a PDF document with all these questions and the answers, right? So feel free to follow our page, the URL of which is posted on the YouTube channel chat. The moment you do that, you'll be notified as in how we post the mind maps and the PDF documents. Number one. Number two, from tomorrow onwards, these sessions will happen from Monday to Friday. Please subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon. Do not forget. The moment you click on that, the events that we create will be notified to you all. Yep. So don't miss out on that opportunity, friends. Thank you all so much, and happy learning. Nitin, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.